All righty, very good Monday afternoon to you. Welcome in. Chico Borman Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. And Chico Borman Show with you till over the next 2 hours with you until 2 o'clock. We stream it live each and every day, Monday through Friday, noon to 2, on Twitter at Chico Show CLE. Also available on YouTube. Type in the Chico Borman Show. If you're not subscribed already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and know that we really, deep down from the bottom of our hearts, at least my heart, appreciate it. Okay, as you can imagine, we have a lot to get to on this Monday, or I think everybody, I don't even think it's, I almost think that overreaction Monday is something you don't even need to say. It's just kind of like it's everybody, every sports show in the country now has just adopted that. Whether they actually like promote it as such, some do, some don't. I think we all know it's always Overreaction Monday, or just Reaction Monday, as we like to say it here on the Chico Borman Show. Browns fall to the Seattle Seahawks yesterday. I did not feel good about this game going in large part, again, because of the quarterback situation, and you're on the road, and you're taking on a team that also was 4-2. Now, not a 4-2 where I think you're looking at them going, oh my gosh, this could be a really tall task, but you know, it's one of the more difficult venues to play in, and the Browns, sooner or later, you've got to win the turnover battle. And I guess, okay, that's where I'm going to start, because it feels like, largely because I think it is, the discussion both right now and last night after the game, and boy, Twitter, you kind of, I felt like I needed a hazmat suit when I was on Twitter last night, or any kind of social media, because it got pretty ugly. And other than the fact that they lost, and it's frustrating, I don't quite understand, like, the back and forth, and Bohm, correct me if I'm wrong here. I felt like there was a part of the fan base that was like, you should have run the ball. A large portion of the fan base, I would say, let's say 70%, that said you should have run the ball. And then you had like another 30% that was like, well, but don't blame Kevin, because that he really called a great game. And really, like, if he just executes that, well, I just you tell me. Did it sound like that was where the division started?
I feel like that is a very fair way of a very fair calculation on your end, Chico, because from producing the Browns post game, I heard a lot of angry calls saying the Browns should have run the ball. That being said,
oh boy, here we go. Boom,
Chico, there were like 3 wide receivers wide open on that play. Like, how can you fault Kevin Stefanski when he schemed multiple opportunities?
Okay, this is where, it's not. First of all, before we go down, because it's amazing how we can go from 0 to 60, and I think it's really it's like our society. If you don't like this person, then that means you must like this person. If you don't like this policy, then that means you support this policy. No, it doesn't. Because I didn't like how the game was called at the end doesn't mean that I think Kevin Stefanski needs to be fired. First and foremost, can we just say that? That's freaking ridiculous. And I think for the most part, anybody with sense, let me repeat that, anybody with sense, common sense, and there's some out there with none of that. Anybody with common sense knows that, no, I mean, what happened yesterday, he should be fired. No, nobody's saying that, okay? So I don't want to hear like, oh, everybody's saying he should be fired. Criticized? Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's, okay, and here's the reason why. Boom, I'll take your statement because it's one that I've read a lot. Not heard a lot, thank God, but I'm sure that's coming. I've read a lot since last night's game ended, roughly after 7 p.m. sometime. That don't blame Kevin because, yes, Jerome Ford was open and this guy was open and that guy was open. We're forgetting one really, really important element of this. Okay. And that is the trigger guy. The trigger. Oh, that guy. He's part of the equation too. Okay? I just got done talking about the turnover battle. The Browns have lost the turnover battle every single week. Now, credit to them, they are still 4-3. But isn't this what we were talking about last week when they won against Indianapolis? And as we get closer to the trade deadline, which is tomorrow at, I think, 4 p.m., that you can't go forward with P.J. Walker. And it's not, God, I don't know why people take this as like it's some personal shot at P.J. I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he's a gamer. He got bet. He made some plays. Great. He's a pro quarterback. I would hope he's going to make some plays as I just knock my freaking water off. Talking with my hands too much. I do that when I get a little fired up. Oh! Christopher. Yo, T. The hell was that, T? He's P.J. Walker. He's not good, okay? I don't want to hear that, well, give him credit. He's a gamer. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can say that. But at the end of the day, he's P.J. freaking Walker. There's a reason why he was available. There's a reason why people are talking about, is there somewhere else you can go for quarterback? And by the way, still talking about that is because you can't trust him in that situation. And now here's the next part of the equation that I'm hearing from people. Well, that was a real fluky call. I mean, who's to know that he's going to bounce it off? Jamal Allen's going to do a header with the foot. Well, that's the whole reason I don't want to put it in P.J. Walker's hands, because there is that possibility. Okay, and yes, the game, it's not down to one play, okay? And with Kevin Stefanski, nobody's grading his entire career as a head coach or his entire career. Nobody's making a referendum on Kevin Stefanski as an offensive play caller on this one call, okay? But there have been times where, yes, he does leave you scratching your head. And you say, well, if he completes that, we're all excited. Yeah, but we're still saying, well, that was a gutsy move, considering, well, it was P.J. Walker. And then the other aspect of this is, and I know, okay, you're not going to run time off the clock. That's the other thing. Like, people feel like they need to remind me, and a lot of people, that there was 2:04 and you weren't going to run 40 seconds. I get that. I got to read. Matter of fact, let me go back to Twitter here a second. Because there is a tweet that, now that I think about it, it's kind of like, well, but what if? And it's like, what if they punted, Seattle got the ball at their own 25 and drove 75 yards for a score? Would you feel better then? No, but this isn't that hard, okay? This, again, statistics, probabilities, analytics, like this is what got. I want to give myself the best chance to win, okay? So when somebody comes at me or others on social media and they're like, well, hey, it wasn't that bad of a call. I mean, look, there were guys open. Great. But the ultimate decision, the ultimate goal is to win the football game, kind of like Indianapolis. It wasn't pretty, but you won the football game. So the ultimate goal remains, when you're losing the turnover margin again every week, one more time, when you're losing the turnover margin every week, give your team the best chance to win. Oh, he could have fumbled. Yes, he could have fumbled. He might not have picked it up. He might have picked it up. If he doesn't pick it up, you can't put, well, but if they punt, it could block. Yes, it could be blocked. but I guess what I'm saying is, folks, like a defense that has shown a few chinks in the armor, okay, but you're telling me that you feel better about P.J. Walker throwing the ball right there than you do punting said football and having Seattle take the ball over on their own 25. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm not an analytical guy. I was never very good at stats and all that sort of thing. Probabilities. I do like Stratomatic, and that is a very probability oriented game. It's actually basically where my love of sports, beyond just, wanting to play it and certainly wanted to be better when playing it, developed. Okay. But this is, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, here's a few memes that I don't know. Yeah. So can I just to give you an idea of what I'm dealing with here. So I said, this is what I tweeted 5 hours ago. I said, no matter how you feel about play calling, this much is certain. Fans being positive or negative, because then it was somebody inevitably, Bohm, you know this, at some point this tweet is coming, and it's a beautiful one. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know who it's coming from. You don't know when it's coming, but it's coming. And that is that, well, maybe if the fans weren't so negative and the media not so negative, they'd win some games. So I responded, no matter how you feel about play calling, this much is certain. Fans being positive or negative has zero, I capitalized all those Z-E-R-O, for effect, has zero effect on how a team plays. If you truly believe this, you're a moron. So, of course, I got a tweet response. In the stadium or in social media? I replied, what do you think? He replied, social media is basically 0%. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, too. In the stadium, I think it can impact a little. Just see soccer games, different sport than in question, but point still stands. Like, common sense. Do you see what I'm trying to get at? Like, of course it doesn't matter. Exactly. On social media, but in the stadium and making noise, supporting your team, yeah, even if you boo, I don't think it really, noise does become a factor, but no, you kind of understand my point there, Needham's interior director, and I like him. Needham's, he's a good dude. He's been a listener to the show for a long time, and I appreciate that. I really do. But like, there's certain things that like I have to point out that I feel like, what are we doing? So, all right, let me go back to this real quick. And I apologize. I probably should have had this right. I really wasn't planning on going to the specific tweet, but now I have to. Boom, are you ready for this? I'm trying to buy time, and I apologize. And
hit me.
Thank you, Boom. How was your weekend, bud? Good?
I mean, it ended in devastation and long hours of work.
I mean, it's always, when I ask that question, it's always like sport, rooting interest aside. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
It was.
It was good. How was your Friday, by the way? Didn't you have a gig or something that you were?
Fell through. Hopefully next week. Yeah.
Boom. There will always be a next time.
Fingers crossed.
By the way, what was that? Before I get to this said tweet, I don't know why this one video came out yesterday. It's like everything came out. People just they were throwing everything out there, and there's a Twitter war? All right, I got this in my wham. What was the video about? Imagine all, and you were, of course, I kind of said this is terrible, and it was, and you said, well, but you can't knock the effort, Chico. What was that? Do you know what it is?
That was, I'm pretty sure they made that during COVID when everyone was like locked in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like some 2020 content of togetherness when everyone was isolated.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of that song, for the record.
It was a little. Did I see?
It's cheesy.
Did I see
it's
D
really
Fox
cheesy.
in there too?
Probably.
How the hell did they?
There were lots of Cleveland media members in there, including some of our teammates.
Yes. I mean, Gab has a beautiful voice, by the way.
She does. She has an album. She's on Spotify.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. Why don't you collaborate with Gab?
I've thrown the possibility out there. I guess I haven't been like adamant about it, but
Boom.
I've slipped the offer. If you need a guitarist, let me know. That's what I said.
Okay. So, and speaking of, I believe this guy is one of our own, Dollar Dog Nick. And this was a good debate, by the way. But this is kind of what I'm getting at, where I don't understand my thoughts. So, a Dollar Dog Nick is a show writer for Big Play.
Yes, he creates a lot of scripts.
Do we have sitcoms on this show?
Well, like for example, the Bobby Carpenter Show. There's a Google Doc, and he like puts it all together and breaks up all the segments and times it out, and we kind of all go off of that.
Okay, this is the one we were doing okay, now I remember. We were doing a tailgate, and like the open, it said like, "Hey, welcome to beautiful downtown Cleveland." I'm like, I'm not reading that, am I? Like, is this on a teleprompter? I was confused, but no, Dollar Dog Nick is a good dude from what I can gather. I didn't. Okay, if the Browns run it on third down, he writes, and don't get it, they punt and the Seahawks get the ball at their own 25 with 2 minutes and 2 timeouts left. Are fans happy with Stefanski if Seattle drives 75 yards for a TD instead of 57 yards for a TD? No, they're not happy either way because they lost. But I mean, it's not hard to figure this out. Am I right? Well, I mean, Bohm, I think you seem to be on that side of that was the right call. And again, the play itself, if you have, let me phrase this another way. If your quarterback is Deshaun Watson and Deshaun Watson is playing well, both of these things are not true. He's not our quarterback, nor is he playing well. But let's just dream a little bit, shall we? Let's say that Deshaun Watson, then, okay, I mean, you have, these are plays that are called. This is my point. These are plays that are called for quarterbacks that you have the utmost trust in, okay? And don't hit me with, well, he's trying to give him that trust, and that'll really boost his confidence. No, that's not how it works. No, it's the NFL, okay? Like, if you're Patrick Mahomes, if you're a veteran somewhere, then yes, and your coach and the Chiefs did that against the Browns one year. Wow, that took a lot of cojones to call that. Yeah, well, Andy Reid, first of all, has the resume to be able to do that, the track record to be able to do that, and wait for it, the quarterback to be able to do that and feel good about it, right? And he's done that a lot with Patrick Mahomes over the years. Guys, I mean, I really don't have to sit up here. I'd like to think that's the reason I was brought on board, is to be able to tell people, like, no, Patrick Mahomes is not P.J. Walker, and P.J. Walker is not. Finkel is not Einhorn. Einhorn is not Finkel, or was. You get what I'm saying. So why are we acting like P.J. We're acting like P.J. Walker doesn't matter in this thing? Well, the play call was great. Well, great, I think, leaves a lot to be determined. But part of a play call involves the actors. Part of the play call involves the personnel. And yes, Kevin Stefanski called a great game. I'm not, like, both can be true. I can say that Kevin Stefanski, I thought the team in general, when they went up 14-0, I started thinking, oh, man, this is exactly what I thought would happen. I hope and they kept hanging in there. And that's a sign of a good team. Just like 4-2, when you could have easily been 2-4, is a sign of a good team, is a sign of a team that's changing and changing for the better. But you're 4-3 right now, and that's a good thing. You feel good about that, okay? But you don't make play calls like that when that is your quarterback. I don't know how else to say. It's not that hard. What, Bohm?
I want to push back a little bit. Because
of course you do. Yeah.
For one, okay, P.J. Walker missed a crazy amount of throws. Like, there is no doubt that he is not a starting NFL quarterback.
And he's also turned the ball over right and left since he started as quarterback. He's a turnover machine.
He also made numerous, like, elite NFL throws.
And he's also a turnover machine. First of all, Bohm, let me just stop you real quick with that comment because you've said this before and I laugh about it. Every now and then, if a guy is in the NFL and he plays the quarterback position, he's probably going to be able to rattle off an NFL big-time, whatever you want to call it, throw. The difference is, can you take care of the football? Can you do that week after week? And he can't, okay? So spare me but every now and then he makes... I would hope so. He's currently drawing a paycheck for being a National Football League quarterback.
Honestly, Chico, I think they should have thrown the ball sooner on that drive. Like, they could have capitalized on a play action because it felt so predictable how often they were running. Like, just a quick pass in those opportunities. But, maybe I'm a little biased because in producing the broadcast, I heard it the entire, during the last drive, Segura was just like, they got to throw it eventually. He's got to make a throw to get it done in this game. And
I respect Nathan Segura, too, but that doesn't,
I think he was right, though, because they were so one-dimensional on that final drive. Like, I don't know that a run would have gotten it done.
You're trying to win the game. Let me just get back to this. You're trying to win the game.
You play to win the game.
Yeah, don't do the impersonation because you're terrible at it. You're trying to win the game. Like, this is not about you're so predictable. Okay, predictable can still get me to 5-2. Predictable against Indianapolis. They became predictable on offense there too. But at the end game, you called the right play when it mattered most, and you won the game. You can't. If it's another quarterback, if it's Deshaun Watson, if it's an upper-tier quarterback, if it's a quarterback that has worked a while with said head coach or said play caller, then I'm okay with it. I mean, there's still going to be second-guessing, but it makes a hell of a lot more sense to the point where I can say, you know what? I'm not gonna fault him for that. But that's not this. This guy is a journeyman, and save me he's really played his ass off since he's a pro. I mean, hopefully he's going to make a few plays. But largely what he's been, let me ask you this. From last week to this week, because last week after the Indianapolis game, and I can't wait to talk to Shook about this tomorrow at noon on the Bold Ball Breakdown. Last week after the Indianapolis game, we posed the following question. Do you feel comfortable moving forward with P.J. Walker as your starting quarterback? And he said no. And I mean, okay, as your starting quarterback and you have visions of playoffs and you have all that stuff, do you, and Nick said no, I said no. No, that's not the vast majority or whatever, but I don't. And I heard it from a lot of people. Maybe Jacoby Brissett, maybe. Okay, so now let's take that temperature again. Because now I'm starting to feel like, when I hear but every now and then PJ really makes a throw. Great. Do I trust him? Here's the ultimate question, kids. Do I trust him? Do you trust him to lead your team to the postseason? And again, he doesn't have to light it up, but not turn the ball over, not make dumb decisions. I don't. Did Sunday change something? And for all that are saying oh yeah, absolutely you make that call with P.J. Walker, then I guess you're fine moving forward with P.J. Walker as a quarterback because that tells me that you're comfortable and that he's earned the right to have that play call in that situation. Part of making the play call is knowing what your personnel is, knowing what your personnel is capable of, not capable of, where they thrive, where they don't thrive. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, he's not. He's not a world beater. But do I trust that more often than not, or in this case, which is more important than anything, when it comes down to him and P.J. Walker versus P.J. Walker, do I feel much better about him not making a bad decision, a bad throw, a turnover versus P.J. Walker? Yes. Therefore, the answer is yes. If you can get him or somebody. Okay? And I'm really not trying to make this personal against PJ. I'm sure he's a good dude. But, I've got to feel confident in my quarterback. I don't feel confident in my quarterback, even if it was a fluke. I don't care that it was a fluke. Again, could you have picked up the first down on 3rd and 3 running the football? Maybe, maybe not. Kareem Hunt said he wanted the ball. That doesn't necessarily mean because he wants the ball that he gets the ball and it's the first down, and I get that. But let's go back to that tweet. That would you be okay then with, would everybody be much happier if they drove 75 yards with 2 timeouts and scored as opposed to the way it ended up? Well, no. First of all, nobody's excited about it. Nobody's happy about it. Nobody's okay with that, period. But does that make more sense as far as your personnel, as far as how your roster is constructed, as far as how your team is, how you butter your bread? Yes, because it comes down to giving that team a longer field, thus a more difficult time scoring points and scoring enough to win the football game. Again, you play to win the game, not become more predictable or less predictable in that case, or to fool the other side when they thought it's to win the game. So that's where I am giving pushback. That if you are honestly trying to tell me that, like, the odds weren't greater, and again, this is an analytical football team, very analytical, into the stats, and yeah, Kevin goes with his gut a lot of times. Sometimes that's good. You people that are screaming about he called a good game, you're not wrong. I don't think he called a bad game at all. But that doesn't, like, just all of a sudden give him a pass for that call. Yeah, but guys were open. Well, okay, good. That's only half the equation because there's somebody that has to get them the ball. I feel like, boy, I don't know why lately for me the last couple of weeks I've had that Wendy meme. Like, I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is. But every time, like, I feel like every time I say something or I start going down a rabbit hole with a debate, I feel like at different points I just want to go, wait, PJ is not Sean, PJ's not Mahomes, is not Pete. Therefore, kick it 70. Okay, they get it at the 25. They've got to go the lane. I'm going to trust my defense. I'm going to take it out of the hands of a guy who's a turnover machine, and I'm going to trust the defense. And again, is anybody going to be okay? Of course not. It's Cleveland. That's not in any market. You lose a game like that late, people's asses are on the line. Now, all of this said, anybody who's calling for Kevin Stefanski's head, it's a joke. I mean, of course not. I mean, I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to point that out, but in some cases, I probably do. All right, go ahead, Bo. I interrupted you when you were about to say that P.J. Walker every now and then makes a really wow throw.
Well, I don't remember my initial point, but we do have some comments that I could. You can chime in on the Chico Borman show.
So if you're that excited, then that means somebody's criticizing, and they're like, "Oh, Bohm, I agree with you. Yeah, I enjoyed your guitar solo on Friday." Go ahead, Bohm.
I got a good one dropping tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, but so Our old pal Ronald.
Yeah.
Saying, first off, he's asking, would you rather have DTR under center? Because we all know how well that works.
No, I wouldn't. That doesn't. When did that ever come up? This has nothing to do with the
snap. By the way,
it has nothing to do with the conversation. The conversation is: should you have run the ball on 3rd and 3 and then punt it if you didn't get it? And do you trust that? This has nothing. No, DTR's name never even came up. Again, no DTR. I don't trust. PJ Walker, I don't trust. Now you're still 4-2 heading into that game. So, and how did you? Well, your defense has been outstanding. Yes, they've had a few chinks in the armor and whatever. I get all of that. But ultimately, this is the question. Not, well, should it have been DTR? I don't even know when his name came into the fold. What's the next great comment, Boom? What else do we have?
Another friend of show.
Would you have been happier if Brian Sipe was under center?
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Just our old pal D Soul saying, why is it the play calling is always so predictable? But I think that, like, when you have PJ Walker at quarterback, you have to keep it simple. You have to keep it basic. And it felt
No. I'm not disputing that. But again, you're forgetting time of the game. You're forgetting situation. This is not 3rd and 3 with 6 minutes to go in the first quarter. This is 3rd and 3 with the game on the line. So when you say, like, well, I mean, you know, the offense, the play calling's been too, well, that's just the way they have. That's why Andrew Berry hopefully hasn't gotten a whole lot of sleep the last couple of weeks, because he's got to find somebody in here that gives them some sort of threat down the field. Because I got news for you. If it's PJ Walker or it's DTR, Ronald, if it's one of those two guys, a combination of those two guys, one guy carrying the other guy out there to the snap with like a wheel, he's a wheelbarrow, it's not going to matter. Because this isn't, what was the word we used a lot? It became the sustainable. That was a buzzword last week. This is not sustainable. Now, good on them. You're 4-2, now 4-3. But, you know, you still have games in conference. You still have every single week. We know it now. That was the theme of last week's show also. Any given Sunday. Oh, by the way, Denver upset the Kansas City Chiefs because, of course, we all saw that.
You know why, Chico?
Why's that?
Tay wasn't in attendance. I mean, you see Kelsey's numbers when she's not there? Just
no, Boom.
Horrendous.
What are the
mediocre, average? Tay wasn't there.
Is this considering he had one INT and one fumble already, and completely ignoring his past 2 games, had thrown at least 2 other passes that were near and had shown questionable decision making. A pass play was a bad decision. The loss isn't on Stefanski, but that wasn't the play. Yeah. I'm not. But here's what I will say. Okay, here's what I will say. No, Stefanski should not be canned. No, Stefanski shouldn't have, moving, for sale signs in his yard. I think we've been through that process before with different coaches and blah, blah, blah. But I do want my head coach, and this is where if people are upset at Stefanski, it's okay. I want my head coach to make the best decision in crunch time. Like that, yeah. I want him to give my team, Northeast Ohio's team, Cleveland Browns fans, your team, to give them the best chance to win. And I just don't feel like on 3rd and 3, and in hindsight's 2020, but 3rd and 3, that was the call. Because one reason, not Jerome Ford couldn't get open, not 3 guys couldn't get open, but because it was PJ Walker, the trigger man. Period. And like predictable, at that point, I'm not worried about predictable. Like I'm more worried about predictable. Like up at that point, the ship has sailed on your offense being predictable. Now you've got to get out of there with a freaking win. I start worrying about predictability, closing in on the first half, and, well, they haven't moved the ball. Or, Joe, are they becoming predictable? I think they are, Mark. Okay, well, okay, we need to address that. I mean, at that point, the horse is out of the barn. Just give your team the best chance to win. The best chance to win. Not a chance to win, the best chance to win. That call was not the best chance to win. Would you have felt good if they drove 75 yards? Not at all. I probably would have thrown something through a window. Boom. I might be incarcerated right now and unable to do the show, but would try to do the show from lockup. Lockup Raw. Cuyahoga. You know what? I haven't watched that show. You ever seen that show, Bo? Lockup Raw?
I have not.
You have not? All right. Hopefully I don't see you on it someday. I won't, though. You might. You're.
It's not implausible.
It would only, but you know how you would get on that show, Bohm? It would be, Michael Bohm was by all accounts, I always love these shows. Like, I'm a Dateline fanatic, right? Do you ever see any one of the Dateline shows where, like, they're like, and she was kind of a stick in the mud. Really? No, they're always like, she was the life of the party. She walked in and that smile.
Lit up a room.
She was never smiling. She was always depressed. Nobody really, she just gave off bad energy and, kind of a loser, So, no, that never happened. So with you, Bohm, they're going to say, well, I won't be interviewed because in this case, in my scenario, I'm dead. So somebody's being interviewed. Maybe it's Ken Miles. Maybe it's Dave.
Fanboy Nick?
No, he's
By the way, we should make up some kind of bet where if we win, he has to change his Twitter handle to Fanboy Nick. I feel like we need to make that happen.
That's too much of a headache waiting to happen. He already.
I feel like it's worth it.
He already has me to the Excedrin aisle more than anyone I've ever met. So, Boom, they would say oh, Boom, he was such a good guy, and I never saw that coming. He was pretty quiet. He was
so weird.
He was a little bit weird, but he in a good way. He had a good sense of humor, or so we thought. He, he loved his music. He loved Ohio State. He loved C.J. Stroud. But on this day, Chico Borman had said he had pushed that final button, which ended up being his final button. And whatever he said to Bohm, he snapped, and Chico was dead. Well, what did he shoot him a look? No, he shot me in the face. Oh. By the way, Matthew Perry, that's Keith Morrison's stepson?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, Matthew Perry is Keith Morrison's stepson.
Rest in peace, Matthew Perry.
I saw a bunch of cameras and media. TMZ was everybody was all
naturally
around. Keith was trying to get in his car. I can't listen to Keith in a normal setting without So when he's like, could you all back away? Trying to stepson drowned.
He's not real.
My stepson drowned in his hot tub. Could you get the hell out of the way? But no, I think that's how it would be. I would be unavailable for comment because I would be the victim. It's R.I.P. Chico. He kind of deserved it, some would say. He finally pushed that button on Bohm.
I got to say, I'm a little taken aback that of all the reasons I would be locked up, it would be murder. I'm a lover, not a fighter, Chico.
Would you mind sharing what other reasons you feel like you might be more likely to be locked up for? I'm curious now. I'm sure the authorities, any listening, they might. Well, I defrauded some old people and embezzled. So, yeah, that kind of surprised me that it was murder that you had, Chico. That wasn't on the bingo card. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Bohm's got fair or foul. Fair or foul, P.J. Walker every now and then looks like an NFL quarterback. Fair. He's going to do that in warm-ups. Yeah. It's a Chico Borman Show. By the way, coming up in the second hour, Oh, boy, we've got a ton to talk about on the college level, a lot as far as Ohio State, a lot as far as what's going on with Michigan, and something that really, you want to talk about, I don't want to say fired me up, but it definitely, it did kind of fire me up. We'll talk about that coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, because somebody, in a weekend of winners and losers, somebody was very much a loser. No, it wasn't just me. We'll be back with more of the Chico Borman Show right here on the Big Play Sports Network. Alrighty, welcome back, Chico Borman Show. Bohm, I always enjoy your write-ups for the show. The 3rd and 3 that will live in infamy.
That rhyme was intentional.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. That's kind of what you do, right?
Songwriter in me. What can I say?
Yes. You know, you mentioned Tay-Tay.
I did.
Boom, I went back. I'm not going to lie. I was telling you that the one song that I do know and really enjoy from Tay-Tay is from way back. Tim McGraw is the name of the song. And I found myself yesterday. I was driving for about a half an hour.
Did you go down the rabbit hole?
I played, I would think part of the rabbit hole is all others. I just played it on a loop. Because It's such a good, I forgot I hadn't heard it in forever. And, you know, like I said, this was back when I was actually doing some country music. And doing sports talk. You got to do that in smaller markets, whatever, and wearing two hats. And I remember, like, that was in my country music phase. And I'm like, that's like, first of all, like, I've always said this. Looking at it now, Tim McGraw's got to feel like one of the biggest studs in the world. Okay, you're married to Faith Hill, and on top of it, the girl that everybody talks about, is talking about, wrote a song that is simply Tim McGraw. But when she says in there, like, oh, when you think happiness, hope you think that little black dress. Think my head on your chest. Kind of gets me a little choked up. Do you think she's singing that to Uncle Travie?
That's a good question, Chico. I feel like a lot of her songs, okay, so I was just hearing about how she supposedly wrote a song about Hollywood actor Jake Gyllenhaal, right? Who she dated.
I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah, but it's called something like totally different that has nothing to do with him, like Dear John or something like that. It's like a 10-minute song.
So it's probably not good then. Probably not good about it.
It came highly recommended to me by someone who's not normally a Taylor Swift fan. So
okay.
I feel like I was meaning to listen to it on the way to work, and I forgot. I got to listen on my way home. But I got a long day, so hopefully I don't forget. But I digress. Anyways, why don't we get things started with Fair or Foul?
Yes, Bohm. I am anxiously awaiting what you have cooked up after a long weekend of, I'm sure, getting some good thoughts together. So looking forward to it.
I've managed to scramble together a few thoughts. And
that are scrambled.
They are indeed scrambled, Chico.
Yes.
And the first one that comes to mind has to do with Michigan Wolverine alum Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports.
Oh, he's a Michigan. Now it's starting to make sense. I didn't realize he was a Michigan alum. Okay, go ahead.
So he was in attendance for that Ohio State-Wisconsin battle in Camp Randall. And he was filming the coaches, Chico, and posting it on Twitter, and like posting their signs. And saying, like, I'm sign stealing, look at me. Oh.
Thanks, Dave.
Do you think the act of filming Ohio State's coaches and posting it on Twitter, like, I guess I'm just curious what your thought is on that. Like, do you find it fair or foul that he's just so blatantly trying to emulate the Michigan sign stealing scheme?
I don't know if he's emulating it. I think he's trying to.
He's making a mockery of it.
Yes, yeah, that's a little bit different than emulating it. I mean, it's Portnoy, and before anybody crushes me with, well, you know what he sold his company for, and what he's. That's great. At times, like we all do, he makes idiotic statements, and this is an idiotic statement. Like, and I mean, Michigan truthers, look. Michigan truthers are having a tough time coming to grips with what this was and what this could mean. Because every day, and by the way, they finally have a game this week, which means now I think Jim Harbaugh is, I don't know if he talks to the media Mondays or Tuesdays. I'm guessing Tuesdays. Maybe today. Like, what do you think people are going to be talking about? Like, so what'd you think of your linebacker play last week or 2 weeks ago, Coach? No, this is all it is. Michigan truthers are, they're saying whatever they can to make themselves feel good. Now, I held off. Like, remember that the first day that you brought it up 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, I need to hear more about it. I need to read more about it. When you talk about sign stealing, was it just during a game last year and they in-game figured it out? No. This is something that's been going on for a few years. They bought tickets. They stood up there. They filmed with an iPhone. Then they disseminated that. Then they had that on their sideline. And this guy, if this guy wasn't important, which somebody who I'm going to get to led us to believe really wasn't important with Michigan, don't you think if he wasn't important, he wouldn't be standing next to, like, the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator during a game? I don't know. Windy meme. If he's important and he's stealing signals, gee, maybe that's why he's standing next to the OC or the DC, and maybe that's why it is a big deal. So, goofballs like Portnoy, do you know how much he sold his company for? I really don't give a shit. I really don't. This is what he does, okay? He's putting out content. He loves Michigan. Good for him. RRR. Let's go.
All right, Chico. Well, more to on-the-field related matters as it pertains to Ohio State, of course, coming out victorious against the Wisconsin Badgers. Marvin Harrison, again, with another 100-plus yard performance. He seems to be racking up quite a few nowadays. Things seem pretty wide open in that Heisman race, Chico. I want to ask you, fair or foul, Marvin Harrison earns a trip to New York come this season's end.
Oh, just earns a trip to, yeah, I think that's a given. Maybe it wasn't a couple of weeks ago, but it is now. Both because, he truly deserves to be there a lot of and it's not even just Joe Klatt. Because I remember Joe Klatt saying this last year that, if this guy came out, he might be number one overall pick. He's the greatest, he's the best in the game right now. And this was last year that he said this, okay? So now you fast forward, but it's not just Joe Klatt. There are others that are jumping on board saying this also, that, yeah, he's the best player in college football. So absolutely, he's going to get a seat there. He should get a seat there. Will he win it? It's going to be difficult, but it's pretty damn wide open. I think if you start and you look at where all the smoke, Caleb Williams was at the top, right? Now, J.J. McCarthy, Michigan hasn't played. Would that affect J.J.? And this is where, and I can objectively say this. I know Ohio State fans will hate on me for it, but, I feel bad for J.J. McCarthy. Maybe he is the best player. Well, maybe he's the best quarterback in the country. Maybe he doesn't win because all of this is going on. But, yeah, Marvin Harrison absolutely will be there. I think he deserves a legitimate chance to win it. That remains to be seen.
And I feel like right now, Jaden Daniels might be the front runner out of LSU. I think he's been putting up a really strong season. McCarthy,
Did he go down?
Did he? If he did, I missed that.
Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
Caleb Williams, though, I feel like he's already just cut, the perception around him carries extra weight, right? Because he's the best quarterback in college football.
But he had a terrible game again.
He did.
Everybody knows, fair or unfair, when we talk about how these guys are judged as it relates to the Heisman, just like Marvin Harrison. Honestly, the Heisman Trophy could come down to November 25th. Let's face it, we all hope it does, because that means the stakes are the highest, and it's what Michigan, Ohio State is all about. Now, will there be other stuff involved? Looks like it. But it could very well come down to November 25th, and who stands out more? Is it J.J. McCarthy? Is it Marvin Harrison Jr.? Why are you laughing?
I'm calling an audible on today's Fair or Foul. Omaha! Chico.
That's why you were laughing?
Well, we got a comment that I personally think is unfair criticism, because our old pal Diesel saying Stefanski can't call plays. We've had 3 full seasons to see that. Walker wasn't on the team when TJ Watt said he knew what play was coming earlier this season. Now, you've been talking about it all afternoon here at the start of the Chico Borman Show, just how Stefanski's trust in PJ Walker may be a big part of the issue here. But do you think the assessment that Stefanski can't call plays is a fair or foul criticism?
Well, first of all, just putting it in that context, I think it's stupid to say he can't call plays. Do I think I'll just go to what Shook says every week, and I've said it at times, but he's been, and I think he's right. He sometimes gets too cute. He sometimes, tries to be the smartest guy in the room. Sometimes, and again, part of being a great play caller, let me go back to what I said earlier in the show. part of being a great play caller. I don't know how that was criticism, Bohm. I don't like. I think I never said he's a great offensive mind. I think at times he's a great play caller. 2020, there were certain games where he had defenses on roller skates, but then it's like he started to. I don't know. Maybe that happens in those situations where they start to, start reading their press clippings a little too much. But in terms of like what he can do, what he can't do, is he a good part of being a good play caller is knowing your personnel. And I'm sorry, while the play itself may have been solid, okay? Like, again, I'm not saying it was a bad play call, but it was a bad play call for that situation with that quarterback. And to me, it's really not that hard to understand, but apparently it's been over the last 24 hours.
I think it's so interesting, though, Chico, just seeing, like, how often this season has really been kind of a wake-up call for me. Just how often guys are open and not being taken advantage of, not being capitalized. That opportunity is not being capitalized upon.
I think you've had a lot of wake-up calls. Some you've answered, some you haven't.
That is fair.
Yeah.
That is fair on today's Fair or Foul.
Yes.
Well, let's get to the Bengals, Chico, because boy, did they put on a show against the San Francisco 49ers.
The bagels. It's like, there's some good stuff in the back I didn't know about today, or what's going on?
Foul, Chico. Raisin bagels over everything bagels.
Foul.
Oh, come on. I love raisin bagels.
I mean, I'm not saying they're terrible, but over every other bagel?
No, like everything bagels.
Over everything. Oh, no.
That was the first bagel question to come to mind since we came onto the topic of bagels. But now let's get to the Bengals.
Yes.
The Bengals, Chico. Because, as I said, they put on a show. Joe Burrow, by the way, let me read you these numbers here. 28 of 32. Only 4 incompletions, 283 yards, 3 tutties, no INTs, a miraculous performance out of Joey B. And I said it on Friday, and I want to get your take on this, Chico. After I made the proclamation on Pick 6, Fair or Foul, the Bengals are back as legitimate AFC contenders.
Why are you like real? You're like, fair, foul. The Bengals are back as real AFC contenders. Like, why are you?
I don't know what I'm doing, Chico.
It's all right, buddy.
I'm just trying to get into it.
Yeah, I would. I don't know how you cannot say that. And there are a couple things to talk about with this game. I know we're going to get into a lot more tomorrow with Nick, but it was on the road. Okay, it's against a team that was struggling in San Francisco, but that's also why I feared, like, Bengals might be in for one because, Browns are going to be, the 49ers are going to be ready. I mean, they've lost 2 in a row. They're kind of chomping at the bit. Oh, here comes Joey B. and come. Joe Burrow he was making plays, coming out of trouble, coming out of traffic, making throws. And then here's the other part of this. Like, his numbers were incredible, and I watched that. I mean, he looked fantastic. Lou Anarumo, we always say, I think we tend to wait until the postseason when we really start to talk about matchups and really dissect them. Oh, by the way, Lou Anarumo is a very, very good defensive coordinator. And I think you saw that starting to come to fruition. They had some new faces back there. Certainly, when I say back there, I'm especially talking about the secondary. He was fantastic. Bengals were fantastic. So, yeah, it's funny. You've got 3 4-3 teams. Ravens obviously are 6-2. You've got 3 4-3 teams, and I think each team, I don't want to say are heading in different directions because I don't think the Browns are all of a sudden in a free fall. I want to make that clear. But I also feel like, you know what? Talk to me on Wednesday after the trade deadline and how Deshaun Watson progress. By the way, did you see Pam? Well, I'll get to it later. I kind of get off on a tangent with Fair.
Pam Oliver?
Did you see her report before the game?
What was so significant about that? I watched it really quickly while I was working the post game.
You know which one I'm talking about.
I'm pretty sure I saw the one you're talking about.
Yeah, she said that IR is in play injured reserve is in play for Deshaun Watson. But again, like, I don't
buy that.
Okay, but why would she say it?
I mean, you raise an interesting point, Chico. I just don't buy it. I think he's too week to week. Like, he could be healthy in 2 weeks. That's not worth putting him on the IR for.
He could be that, or like they're so. I mean, I totally buy it. I mean, everything's what. First of all she's saying is she was told by the Browns or by somebody that is in the know. And again, coming from Pam Oliver, I think she's been around long enough that she's got sources. She's not just throwing that out there. So for her to say that tells me that, okay, this idea, remember when it was day to day, and then we finally had to, like, it seemed like the pressure was building. It was like, okay, all right, guys, you get what you want. He's not day to day. He's more week to week. Well, guess what? Now he's not week to week. Now maybe nobody knows. So if Pam Oliver says that, do I think it means that, he's absolutely going to hit the IR, he's going to miss a minimum of 4 games, or he's going to miss 4 games? I don't know. But I also don't know. I mean, if anybody, this is why we're talking about a quarterback at the trade deadline. P.J. Walker's not the guy, DTR's not the guy, and nobody has any freaking clue 1 hour to the next what's going on with Deshaun Watson. It's that simple.
All right, Chico. Well, I want to circle back to the Browns now because, I mean, you've been talking about it here at the start of the show how obviously it feels like the Browns need to do something. They need to acquire some quarterback because what they have currently on their roster with this dealing with this Deshaun injury, it's just not getting the job done. But I think it's also interesting to think of it from the perspective of maybe they're anticipating and expecting Deshaun to return sooner than he actually may.
Don't go down that road. Boom. They want you. They're holding you. Come on.
Fair or foul, Chico?
Come on.
The Browns are putting too many eggs in the Deshaun getting healthy basket.
Go for a ride. Go for a ride. Yeah. Go for a ride. Yes, they are. Nobody knows anything. They don't. I mean, they can't. And here's, okay, let's say, I was going to get into this a little bit later in the show, but let's do it right now. Let's say that Deshaun Watson does come back. And I think we could all agree that, okay, hopefully he has more of an arm. He has better arm strength. He has better arm strength certainly when he's on the run, because that's one of the reasons when he's going right, when he's going well, that you think he's one of the best in the business is his ability to create plays with his feet, extend plays with his feet, and then throw on the run. Clearly, he's not even close to being there yet. But let's say that he gets there, but it's still not. It's one of those things where you're hearing, and I could definitely hear this. He's really not going to be 100% until after the season ends, unless they completely shut him down. So, are we going to continue to do this every week where every time he gets hit, the coaching staff is like, uh-oh. And I know somebody can say, well, you're always like that with any – no, not to this extent. Which is why they have to – Andrew Berry's got to find something out there. I don't know what that is, and I realize it's easier said than done. But there is no way in hell that you are moving forward and saying, yes, P.J. Walker is our guy. And like I said, that's the whole point of 3rd and 3, and why can he keep you in games? You hope, although he's still turning the ball over. That, to me, is the number one reason P.J. Walker cannot be your guy. He is a turnover machine. And he's not going to make enough plays to offset that, but he's a turnover machine. So we can talk about, well, just do enough and let the defense. No, because this guy more often than not is going to crash the car. I'm not trying to insult him. It's nothing personal, but we got to just stop acting like PJ is, oh, wow, what a gutless performer. We got to move forward with him. You can and feel good about it. I don't. And I guarantee you, well, I shouldn't say I guarantee you. I feel very confident in saying Andrew Berry doesn't either, and is probably burning up phone lines as we speak in the lead up to tomorrow's deadline.
Yeah, we've seen conflicting reports on Jacoby Brissett who obviously seems like right at this point the most tangible option for the Browns to make. But I think it's interesting, though, because they're in a position with no leverage right now, and they're probably going to have to pay more.
Yes,
than,
that is very true. Good point.
Like I have to imagine that acquiring another quarterback might even be more costly than Amari Cooper. What was that, a 5th-round pick?
They're going to – I would bet – I would say – I think the question is, are you going to have to give up a 3rd-rounder? I mean, honestly, like that's – first of all, we know they don't have ones because of Sean.
A couple more years.
Yeah, a couple more years. But, no, I mean, how – if you're Washington, and I know we can sit here and go, well, that's BS. Why would Washington? They know they've got you. Your back's against the wall. You're a playoff team. You're now in a division where, guess what? That team that you didn't know about for a while, well, they're back, and they just made a statement about being back yesterday in San Francisco. Baltimore is Baltimore. Pittsburgh, I'm not buying. But, you're in for a fight the rest of the year. And if you're telling me you're going to battle or you feel comfortable going to battle with P.J. Walker, God bless you, because I don't.
All right, so the last thing I'll ask you on today's Fair or Foul, Chico, if Fair or Foul, if the Browns did acquire another quarterback, for example, Jacoby Brissett, P.J. Walker is the odd man out and not DTR.
What do you mean when you say odd man out? Like
he's the one that gets the X. He gets cut.
Like out and out cut?
Yeah, if the Browns were to acquire another quarterback, because you're not going to keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't think that. Again, and I totally admit to not knowing all the rules as far as how you can. I just know there's ways that you can designate certain guys, have them on practice squad, one, have them on an injury, another. Like I don't know how all that works. Now, if it comes down to that, then I don't think so. I mean, I think he has to be. I mean, I still think they like DTR. It's just you found out.
You threw him to the wolves.
Yeah. I would even at this point, okay, believe it or not. Well, no, I wouldn't. Because this came up last week. You were talking, like, what if DTR had a full week of snaps, a full week of practice? Still don't want to do it. Because, I think everything, you're still a 5th-round rookie, whatever he was. And, but I still believe to this day that finding out, they say 2 hours, 90 minutes, whatever. Even, let's say it was 3 hours. Oh, hey, Deshaun can't go, you're in. I mean, my God, like the guy. I think he's at the very least, I think he's going to be a very good backup for a long time. So yeah, you're not giving up on him, but look, we'll worry about that if and when it happens. I just, now you're a team like the Minnesota Vikings. Now what are you doing? Because Kirk Cousins helped you when they were all of a sudden having yard sales. And now Kirk Cousins has a blown out ACL or a blown out Achilles. Are they trying to find a QB2? Or I don't know. But to your point, and we'll touch on this a little bit when we get back, and then I want to move into college football. Yeah, they absolutely positively are going to have to overpay. But, what's overpaying after 3 ones, $230 million guaranteed and no production? At this point, with the way your team is assembled, with as great as your defense is, if you have to give up a 3rd, I mean, I don't want to do it. Is he worth that? No, I don't think so. But do you give up a do you give up a 3rd? You might have to do that. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, a little bit more on this. Also want to shift into college football mode. The Ohio State Buckeyes, yes, they got it done against Wisconsin. I think there's a certain truth that we need to come to grips with, and it's really not all that alarming. Certainly not as alarming as the one that is you can't go forward with P.J. Walker. It's actually something that, there's an avenue for Ohio State, but their win over Wisconsin, we'll talk about that and some comments by another Michigan guy. Boy, they're really having a problem. Coming to grips with what's going on in Ann Arbor and what may happen to their program. We'll be back with more Chico Borman Show with you until 2 right here on the Big Play Sports Network. Alrighty, welcome back. Chico Borman Show on this Monday afternoon. Good to have you along. And, of course, if you want to stream the show live, you can do that at Chico Show CLE, also on YouTube. You can follow us there. Type in the Chico Borman Show. If you are not following already, just hit that subscribe button, and you will be ready to go. You can also tweet at the show, at Chico Show CLE. My personal Twitter is at Big Play Chico. Gotten a few of those since last night, which is okay. Twitter was an angry. Now you expect that Twitter was an angry place last night. I just think some of the anger might be a bit misplaced in some cases, in some ways. But we'll get back into that here in a little bit. Kevin Stefanski, by the way, I believe his media time. I think he's talking to the media in a little over an hour from now, around 2:30. So I'll be curious to hear what he has to say. And again, trade deadline tomorrow at I think it's 4 o'clock. I want to move on to college football for a moment. Bowman, you had the Michigan scandal in fair or foul there. So College Game Day, I was flipping back and forth between Game Day and Big Noon, whatever, and so I was watching Game Day, and specifically for what I got. And that was, I wanted to hear, well, and at this point, every day is a new development, right? So as of yesterday, or excuse me, Saturday, I believe it was Nicole Auerbach who had come on and said, and this was for Fox, that yes, Stallions was the guy that kind of coordinated all this, but then there was that, remember there was a Division III coach or something that said he had been contacted by Stallions over the years. He actually did some of the filming, because now apparently if there is a loophole, and trust me, if there's a loophole, they're going to find it. So much for that gold standard that Harbaugh says they're trying to build to the nth degree of doing things the right way. The loophole they're trying to get at is that, well, if Stallions was buying the tickets, but then giving the tickets to people not affiliated with the program, then they did nothing wrong. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of this, but I think at the end of the day, Stallions is the guy that coordinated it. I highly doubt that he coordinated it by himself with no knowledge of anybody else from Michigan, including Jim Harbaugh. I find that very hard to believe. But then the end result was, okay, they may not have taken place of the day-to-day and who was getting tickets and who was recording and all of that, but when push came to shove and you needed to know the signals, well, guess what? The OC, the DC, probably Harbaugh, they were certainly brought into the fold then. Okay, what are the signals? Stallions, you stand right next to me. So there, these loopholes, and I understand, I mean, that's just in the legal system, any system. You try to find loopholes. It seems like they're shrinking for Michigan. So College Game Day talks about it on Saturday, and Herb Street, who I think is, extremely objective, to the point where, like, that's the reason he honestly had to leave Columbus. He was so objective. That's what's funny about this whole thing, is that when people nationally refer to him as a homer, I don't think they realize that, like, the reason he had to leave Columbus, where he now lives, I think, in Nashville, that he had to leave Columbus is because people in Columbus didn't like the fact that he was so objective and thought he should have been more of a homer, and damn it, you're an Ohio State Buckeye, and that's how it should be. So Herb Street, like, for anybody out there nationally, and, a lot of times we do this, just, a guy went to Ohio State, a guy went here, and you're looking for it. He gives you nothing. Okay, he doesn't. Are there times where he talks about Ohio State? Now, are there little things here or there, like, hey, we're in Columbus back when his kids were younger, and he and his wife, who was an Ohio State cheerleader, had just gotten married, and game day was just taking off? Yeah, they'd have some fun with the kids at the desk and Brutus, and okay, fine. When it comes down to analysis, like, you don't become Kirk Herbstreit. You don't become one of the best analysts in the country. Not just college football. The guy's doing pro with a guy named Al Michaels, who I think you probably heard before. You don't get to that level by being a homer. Matter of fact, just the opposite. Now, Desmond Howard, on the other hand, is completely different. And I got to admit, speaking of the pushback I got this weekend, some was fair, some unfair, like the stuff yesterday on PJ. I started out a tweet from Saturday by saying, I respect the hell out of Desmond Howard, but his comments were just ridiculous. And I had a lot of people, like, coming at me with, wait a minute, why do you respect the hell out of Desmond Howard? And I was like, you know what? I've got to look at that again. That's fair. This is why I said at the time, and I think to some degree I still do, like, I'm not going to look at Desmond Howard and say he's a horrible person because he decided to go to Michigan over Ohio State, okay? That's stupid. I certainly respect what he did on a football field. He won a Heisman Trophy. He was a Super Bowl MVP. I mean, he knows the game. Now, when it comes to what I just said about Herb Street, there's a reason why Desmond does, and I don't know if Desmond wants to be an analyst during game. I don't know what his end goals are, what any of his goals are, but he could never be that because he can't be objective. And case in point was Saturday. They brought it up again, And Herb Street was the first one to come out of the box and talk about it. And Herb Street's comments were, I waited on this one for a couple of weeks because I wanted to see like exactly what went down, how involved. And he's like, now I'm kind of like everybody else. What the hell were you guys doing? Like, you're videoing with an iPhone, and then you got this guy standing next to guys during the game, and he's finding signals, and then and then you're looking at scores, and you just connect the dots, and it doesn't look good. So, like everybody else, whether you're in Ohio State, a Texas State, a UCLA, you connect the dots, and they're all pointing to, wow, these guys had something pretty involved going on. And then McAfee said whatever McAfee said. By the way, I can't take McAfee's Pittsburgh accent. I can't. He's good. Don't get me wrong. McAfee's good. But I was wondering why lately he was starting to he's starting to get on my nerves because I can hear him. I have nightmares about Steeler fans from back when I worked in Pennsylvania. And he has that accent. Like, he's about to say, like, well, I got to get home and do the worsh. Like, he's about to say that. You can tell. Anyway, he also said, like, yeah, this is kind of, boy, I don't know. This is getting a little, and there's an update every day. And Harbaugh, I think, no, you know what? Now that I think about it, it was McAfee that said, I think Harbaugh is coaching his last year at Michigan. So now in comes Desmond. Obviously a proud OSU alum, or Michigan alum. Good for him. Boy, I'm going to be getting a call from Desmond soon. F you. And he immediately went into Harbaugh. Harbaugh's a victim in all this. He's like, he goes, yeah, you know what? This Stallions guy, he was basically portraying Stallions as some like psycho wannabe football coach who had absolutely no affiliation with the football program. Except Desmond, he did have and does have, well, he might not now, an affiliation with the football program. So this idea, like he brought up the whole manifesto and he had this elaborate scheme to be the head football coach at Michigan. Now, I just hear that, and I'm like, yeah, he's probably a little bit, probably not the sharpest knife in the drawer. He might be, but in the wrong way, so yeah. Oh, but he can help us win games. Oh, well, then let's see what you have in that manifesto, son. And then he comes in, and so, okay, first and foremost, Des, don't act like this is just some average Joe fan who says he has dreams of being Michigan's next head football coach. He does. They were unfounded. He'll never be it. He never was going to be it. But the steps that he took to at least get his foot in the door, you guys at Michigan welcomed. Again, and I let me emphasize this. Guys like, I forget his first name, guys like Stallions don't just accidentally end up on a sideline next to the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator. Are you kidding me? Try to jump down from the stands. Good luck with that, first of all. Try to jump down from the stands and then try to just kind of buddy up, go hip to hip with the defense. Yeah, you're probably going to be tossed to the ground and walked out of there in no time. So let's not act like this was just he knew what he was doing. Everybody at Michigan knew what he was doing. But now to the second part of what Des said, and this is really where it was like nails on a chalkboard. He goes, yeah, obviously some guys in college football have had it out for Coach Harbaugh for a while, and they are obviously trying to get him out. What? That's what this is? This is a witch hunt from, like, the feds are now involved. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like with Bill Self in college basketball, the feds, I'm not a political guy, but feds don't get involved in sports just because they're bored, okay? they really do have bigger fish to fry. Whether or not they fry them as much as we like them to is a whole other story, but they do have bigger fish to fry. So they don't just say, oh, man, what do you got going today, honey? You know what? I'm kind of in the mood to take down that dude that wears khaki pants and drinks milk while he eats steak. And, yeah, I'm going to take down Harbaugh. That's not how it works. So somebody is not out to get Harbaugh. But then what I liked is at the very end, I got to give Reese Davis, he put everything together because after Desmond got done, you could tell it was about as awkward as can be. Now, you had the Utah fans behind, and it was a great game day crowd, so they're kind of oblivious to what's going on, and they're cheering a lot. But on set, like Herb Street was kind of just looking ahead, and normally they have no problem looking at each other, winking, laughing, none of that. Herbie was looking dead ahead. McAfee's looking dead ahead. Dez is looking straight ahead. And all of a sudden it goes back to Reese Davis, who's got to kind of get this together, put a bow on it before sending it to break. And Reese Davis is like, allow me to read to you from Jim Harbaugh after is it Weiss? Is that the guy that's also being investigated? So the feds probably have to be like, you know what? Might as well kill two birds with one stone. We've got some guy that's stealing identities or whatever the hell he's doing from the football offices. So we got to investigate that. And now we got to investigate this sign stealing scandal that they've got going on, cooked up in Ann Arbor. So Reese Davis is like, these are the words of Jim Harbaugh. And I'm paraphrasing, but he basically says, we will not tolerate any kind of, illegal activity or any kind of cheating, or basically, if I'm the head coach of Michigan, we're going to run a clean program, and our gold standard, we're going to take that to the nth degree. Now, let me just, nobody told him to say that. Jim Harbaugh volunteered that. And basically what Reese Davis is saying, and he wasn't saying it at Dez as much as he was saying it like to Dez by looking straight ahead into the camera. He said, well, if this is your idea of getting things cleaned up to the nth degree, then wow. I mean, that's because this is anything but. Like Dez, I'm not that much of an Ohio. Okay, Charles. I always say Charles Woodson is one of my all-time favorite players. One of the best football players I've ever seen in my life. I saw him play in high school. Obviously, unfortunately, saw him play in college. Saw him play in the pros. He is one of the best defensive backs, football players, period, I've ever seen. He chose Michigan over Ohio State. In, what was that? Mid to late 90s. Mid-90s. Incredible, I don't ever say like, oh, I hate Charles Woodson. You make jokes about it, you have fun about it, and he has fun about it, but that's where it ends. That's all it is with Dez. Like, I don't care that he chose Michigan. I really don't. This is like, Dez, you're making claims that are just so ridiculous. You can't back them up. You know they're not true. And when you start saying things like, well, guys are out to get Jim Harbaugh. No, Jim Harbaugh's done a pretty good job of that himself. Do we need to go into his track record, whether it be Palo Alto, whether it be San Francisco, whether it be like, this is what he does. This is what he does. He is a great coach. He is an egomaniac. So is Urban Meyer, which is why a lot of times, same with Herb. Like, only certain guys can go to programs, completely flip the script, win a national championship or two or three, but then also be a guy that's on his way out 10 years later. You know why that is? Because their egos are so enormous that they think they're above everybody else. That was Urban Meyer. That's Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is starting to get to that point, if he hasn't already, where Michigan boosters, Michigan alums are going, you know what? I'm kind of sick and tired of him. The same way Stanford did it and San Francisco did it.
You remember that time that Jim Harbaugh went to a recruit's house and he refused to take off his cleats?
Yeah.
Well, first off, like, you're wearing cleats in a recruit's house. But second off, refusing to take it off on the new carpet. Like, if that's not a testament to egomania, I don't know what it is.
Boom, let me ask you a question. I'm glad you brought that up. Do you think, and this is not a joke at all, do you think that Harbaugh, he got up, got himself dressed, and he really wasn't, do you think that was like something planned? Or he was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get to the recruit's house. They're going to ask me to take off my clip. I don't think I think he literally, like, that's what he wore that day.
That's Jim Harbaugh.
Again, he's not all there. Now, that doesn't mean he's not good at his job.
I need an SNL skit reenaction of that moment.
I'm glad you said that, and I'm thinking that's coming. It's got to be on the horizon. It's got to be very close. You know what I mean?
Man. Just imagining that.
Yeah, it has to be.
You mind taking your cleats off for the new carpet? Yes, I do.
Like,
I'm not taking them
I
off.
can't wait to see somebody portraying stallions.
It's coming. Weekend update at the very least.
Yeah, I'm with you. Not all the time does sports bleed into that, but I think this is one of them. And like I said, now you've got the feds involved. It's just, we got to stop with, and Dez has to stop. And I know you love the guy. I get that. But, like, you don't think that at a certain point, Herb Street, when he had to say what he had to say about Urban Meyer, he didn't back down from that. He never backed down from it. And, like, I'm not saying they're the same guy and they do the same things and cheating. It's not that. It's just, it's the mindset. Like, there's only a handful of guys that can turn a program around that was once this and now it's, and do it in a hurry, because in college you got to do it in a hurry. You do it in a hurry by recruiting, and then hopefully you win a national title, maybe plural, but then at some point you trip up. And why do you trip up? You forgot certain parts of the game. No, it's not that. Those guys know the game in their sleep. They've forgotten more than anybody else will know. They just felt like administration, don't need them. NCAA, don't care. Big Ten Conference, don't care. And after time, the authority figures, the powers that be, say, well, you know what? We do care, and we do have the authority to say, get out of here. And it's what they did at Stanford. Jed York, I mean, I applaud Jed York, because Jed York, for the longest time in San Francisco, put up with it and kind of stayed in the background. You didn't hear a whole lot. Now, when people dug, I mean, the insiders, the Albert Breers of the world, the Peter Kings of the world, they would make it known, like, yeah, you know what, they don't, Jed York, Jim Harbaugh, they don't really like each other. But you know what? York was smart enough to know, I signed the checks, I'll continue to sign the checks, you just keep winning. But then when things don't play out or things start to slip, okay, now I have the right to step in because I do own the team, I do sign the checks, and you're gone. And it's, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would say, and Bohm, I think you posed this in Fair or Foul last week. And I would say that if I'm posed with this question again, I honestly don't have a good answer. But to McAfee's comments, like, is this his last season at Michigan? I don't know what their defense is going to be. And, like, this week, I remind you, I know I said this like 8 times, but, like, all last week they were off. They didn't have a game. So it's like they didn't have to talk to anybody. They didn't. And my guess is Harbaugh's response is going to be, I can't speak on an ongoing investigation. Okay, but guess what? There are writers out there that will have, they can get creative when they have to be. And there are ways around, okay, well, what about this? What about It's not going to be about the game. Harbaugh's going to be pissed. And you know what? Now is where, like, you want to talk about victims, now you can talk about his players. Like, those are the guys you can feel sorry for. J.J. McCarthy might be deserving of winning the Heisman Trophy. Would this be a stain if Michigan, if it continues to get worse from here and there's discipline coming, that's not his fault. I mean, I certainly don't root for the guy, but that's not his fault. But, this is what you're looking at. Bad news. But Dez, look, should I say I respect that? I like certain parts of your career. Put it that way.
He was a great player.
Yes, I like certain parts of your career. I have absolutely no ill will the fact that you chose Michigan over Ohio State, but what you're saying right now on national television about Jim Harbaugh is a joke, is ridiculous. So,
as far as Desmond Howard in particular, I think there's that saying of you have to separate the art from the artist. And I can respect the art.
You wanted to use that one bad.
Well, there's a few people out there in the world where it's like it's hard not to respect the art, but the artist, I don't know.
All right. The artist formerly no, it's not going to be a transition here. When we come back. See that would have been you trying like hell to formulate something into a fair or foul right there, but you got to cut it off. You got to cut it off when it ends. All right, we'll take a break. We come back. Update on the Browns. Kind of put the finishing touches on that for today. And Cavaliers, okay, they're 1-2. No, it hasn't looked pretty, but there have been good reasons for that. We're going to talk about that. Cavaliers, by the way, back in action tomorrow. They've got the Knicks, a little home and home. We like those. Little home and home with the Knicks. Will the Cavs be less awestruck going back into the Madison Square Garden this week than they were last year? We shall find out. We'll talk about it when we come back. Chico Borman Show until 2 right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. Chico Borman Show as we roll along on this Monday. Boom, you all right there? We got a leftover midge.
Yeah.
A midge has survived. See, that's one tough midge right there. We had the collection of midges last week. I think their lifespan is only about 72 hours. But this little guy right here, he made it through. He's trying to set a Guinness record for midges, and he's still rolling. He's on that, enamored by that light fixture. More importantly, enamored by you, Bo.
Yeah, he was. It seems he was clinging to me. As soon as I pointed to you to let you know you're back on the air, he was like, "Oh, that's my cue," and off he went.
That's Boom. I love his music. Big fan of his.
What can I say? I make music for the midges.
By the way,
the masses.
I was speaking of music. I was talking. We brought it up in Fair or Foul last week. Inverse Fair or Foul, where I present to you, and Creed, the renaissance that Creed's on, and with the Rangers and the Vikings. But now all of a sudden, like, is that a curse? I mean, now that because Cousins was the one that was backing them more than anybody. Cousins was like, "Oh, dude, they're really good." He actually said, too many people just look at Creed and think of the song Higher, but they've got a whole bunch of great songs. And then he goes out and blows out his Achilles. That's a bummer, man. You like Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is going to take on that. He's going to take on the Britney Spears role. Like, when nobody appreciated, and you had that one ornery fan of Britney Spears. When she was like,
"Leave Britney alone!
Leave Britney alone! She shouldn't even perform for you people!
Leave Kirk alone!"
I feel like we're going to have that same reaction with Kirk Cousins. Like, nobody truly appreciated Kirk Cousins until he was gone, and he's not gone.
You know who appreciated Kirk Cousins? EK. Eric Casillas. Big Kirk Cousins guy.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. He was a very, very big fan of.
That's a real one right there.
Of Kirk Cousins. Well, EK's a real one. Talk to him later in the week. By the way, quick programming note coming up tomorrow at noon. It'll be week 8 of the Bold Ball Breakdown. I can just tell you, when games end like this, it's Nick Shook at his best. I like to say I'm at my best, but Nick Shook has a level that he can reach when discussing Kevin's. I'll give you a hint. He's not Kevin Stefanski's biggest fan. He's not.
That Numbers That Matter segment, Chico, that's really going to matter tomorrow.
Yeah, he's going to have some interesting,
meaningful numbers that truly matter.
Yeah, he's going to have some very interesting numbers that matter when it comes down to that. All right, as we wind things down here on this Monday, Cavaliers are 1-2, boom, and it's one of those things where, if you didn't watch the games or you didn't pay attention, you look and go, "Oh, man, this, all we heard was this new pace and space and new faces and Max Strus and Niang and the core's got another year." And, well, you know what? Nobody's really playing. I mean, Garland's missed time and
Jared Allen.
Jared Allen's missed time. And believe it or not, even though I know Jared Allen took a lot of heat and a lot of it was justified after last year's finals, they've missed him dearly. In the paint, rebounding the basketball.
We can say with certainty that the lights are not too bright for him in the regular season.
Yeah, and I guess that's okay. Now that's the point I want to make. Like, when I say enjoy this season, and I still maintain that, like, part of this is going to be. And I feel like a hypocrite because I'm certainly one of those guys that I roll my eyes with the, game management or load management. And we already heard yesterday with Joel Embiid. I think he played for the Sixers, but like going into the game, one of the notes was, Joel Embiid, he might sit, albeit the first week of the season. He's had a few games here in a few days, and I'm like, damn, load management happens in the first week. But you know what? It really is about, as we found out last year, and you don't truly appreciate that until you get there, the postseason. It really is about the post. Now, again, you've got to get there, and you get there, but there's a lot of games left. And they're 1-2. I think the thing, if you want to put your hat on one thing, and well, it's not anything to be happy about, they have inexplicably they've just given up big leads. Like they've just, they've been comfortably in front, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. Now, again, when you're losing key guys, and this is where Jared Allen, getting defensive boards, preventing shots, making life hell in the paint for opposing teams, opposing players, not having him is one thing. And then, Garland missed some time. And so I think all of this is to say that, the Cavs, just make sure you're good when the postseason rolls around. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not, unless they go through long stretches, and this is not one of those, and unless they have all of their big guns out there, like if they have everybody firing, make no mistake, okay? Because they said they wanted to rest a couple of these guys and make sure they're ready to go for tomorrow. Tomorrow, as I said, is a home and home. They've got the Knicks tomorrow, and then the Cavs go to New York on Wednesday. If they play like crap on Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm not going to say it's going to be panic time, but we're going to be talking much more about this. The reality of the situation is the Browns lost, and to a lesser degree, the Guardians are trying to find a manager and all that sort of thing. So, like, the Cavs are just kind of, no big deal, or 1-2. But if they lose Tuesday and Wednesday, or they look particularly bad on one of those days, God forbid both those days, now you're going to start hearing stuff. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to get too upset. 1-2, they're still trying to figure out, and vice versa, not just them trying to figure out JB's new philosophy, but also JB trying to figure out his personnel, what works, what doesn't work. But the bottom line is you have some key guys, very key guys, that have missed some time. And, Max Strus, it's funny, I think they played 3 games. The first game he had 27-12. The second game he disappeared. The last game he had 27-12. So when he comes out and plays well, it's going to look like 27-12. When he doesn't, well, it's that in-between game. But we'll see. I'm curious what they look like tomorrow and Wednesday, because I think there's no doubt with Saturday's game, they were focused on getting guys healthy and getting guys as ready as they can be for Tuesday and Wednesday. So I feel like we reserve judgment to some degree and wait until Thursday, and then I think on Thursday we'll start talking more about the Cavs and what it looks like. But I'm not going to get too upset about all of that. All right, so that's the Cavaliers. Back to the Browns quickly. Hopefully this is one of those situations. We've had time to cool off. It's never a good idea, and I didn't take my own advice. It's never a good idea to immediately hop on social media following a game. Certainly following a game like that. I got to admit, I think I was surprised a little bit more that so many people were like defending. I don't think it was defending Kevin Stefanski as much as it was PJ Walker, but maybe they're one and the same with the way that game played out. I just don't think you can trust PJ Walker in that situation. And I don't want to hear about, well, you become predictable at that point. Like I said, predictability is something you're talking about in the first quarter, the second quarter, halftime adjustments, third quarter. At that point in the ball game, you're trying to put him away. You're trying to win the game. And I know you say, well, what, you don't think he was trying? No, I know that he was trying to win the game. I know that he was trying to put him away. But was that the best option? Your quarterback, who is very, very turnover prone, you can show me all you want. Like, look, here's Jerome Ford. He's wide open. Great. Well, that was a fluky play with Jamal.
I heard that line a lot. Fluky.
Yeah.
That term was tossed out a lot.
Right. But I know that fluky has less chance of being fluky if you don't run that play to begin with.
there's no denying that it was a bold call. And I think you're definitely, like, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, Chico. But at the same time, I feel like if you're the head coach in that position, you just have to trust in your quarterback, regardless of how good he is, what he's capable of. You've got to have trust in him, and you've got to make the bold call.
Okay, what you're saying is right. And, like, yeah, I mean, it sounds good in a perfect world. This isn't a perfect world, and he's definitely not the perfect quarterback. And, like, no, you can't. This is where a head coach has to be a head coach. It's kind of like when you say, a head coach, or you talk about, he made a point to say, I was protecting our franchise, I was protecting our quarterback, and who knows what's really going on with Deshaun? I don't know. I have no freaking clue, as much as anyone else does, and that probably includes Deshaun. But when Kevin Stefanski stood up and said, hey, you know what? I'm the head coach, and I'm protecting my guy, and I just didn't think he should be out there. Well, in those same moments yesterday, he should say, I'm the head coach, and I know my quarterback is not very good. And I know that he doesn't give me a great chance to win. But Chico, how do you know Kareem Hunt's is going to pick up 3 yards? I don't. But I have what my bread is buttered, or has been buttered on, and kind of what this team is all about is, okay, try to pick up that first down, and if you can't, you put the odds in your favor by punting the ball. Hopefully you pin them back deep, and that's not a foregone conclusion either, but you at least make them go the length of the field. So when somebody says, well, they could have done that too, yeah, but the odds were less that they would do that as opposed to let's throw. And I'm just going on an organization. I'm going on what I've been told and what we all know about said organization, that they thrive on those situations. Yes, as a play caller, as a head coach, anywhere, at any level, at any sport, there's a certain gut instinct that comes into play. Yeah, I know what the numbers say. I know what the analytics say, but Kevin has that, and Kevin's displayed that in his brief tenure here. Yesterday, in my opinion, was not one of those times in my gut, I trust PJ. He hasn't given you any reason to. You may want to. I want to. But he hasn't given you the reason to.
The problem is he gives you glimmers of hope. And you touched on it, Chico, right? Like even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again.
I think I could send you outside in that little strip of lawn between the runways and the tarmacs. And I could say, Boom, I want you to heave one as far as you can. Try to make it into Lake Erie. And I'm going to look out there once or twice during the half hour and go, that wasn't a bad throw by Boom. And you might come back and say, Chico, a blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then.
I could probably hit the broadside of a barn.
Yes. 3rd and 3, game on the line. I'm not feeling that great about it's only 3 yards. Look, he's wide open. I get it.
3rd and 3 that will live in infamy.
Good rhyme, Boom. Very, very good rhyme. All right, we'll take a break. Apparently, we got some people that need to get in the studio, and I would never hold anybody up, Boom. That's just not how I roll. I respect other people's time. So we're going to get out of here and let whoever the Big Hat Show, I don't know what's going on, we'll get out of here. We'll do it again tomorrow, beginning at noon. At noon, the Bold Bald Breakdown, my buddy Nick Shook, NFL.com, NFL Network, and I can just tell you, oh, yeah, he's going to have a few opinions, bold opinions about what went down at the end of that game yesterday in Seattle. Until then, until tomorrow at noon, enjoy the rest of your Monday, everybody. See you.